All right. Sorry about that, guys. Sound should be on now. I know it's usually a little bit delayed. Just didn't have the mic plugged in. Was messing with my lights in the background, so cool. All right. Yep. So we got no mic to start, and we got a little bit of blurriness in the background, but we're just gonna keep it going. Again, let's go over what we know so far. I apologize for that. I just didn't have my mic plugged in. So Warriors, same starters as last game. They have Toscano Anderson starting at the 4 instead of Eric Pascal. With Lauri Markkanen, game time decision, that does change some things. The Knicks are starting Alfred Payton, RJ Barrett, Bullock, Randall, Robinson. They're pretty thin at the guard position. Kevin Knox is available. Alec Burks is out. Jimmy Butler's out. Again, we talked about those mid-range guys from Miami with Dragic, Hero, I think look pretty good. Embiid listed as available to play, assuming he'll be good to go. No minutes limit for him. Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose will play. And let's see. We got the Wizards starters with Westbrook, Beal, Bonga, Denny, and Thomas Bryant. Some of the stuff is for Wednesday. Al Horford, this was earlier in the day, but Al Horford is out, so I think Mike Muscala is going to be one of the top value plays of the slate, just because this slate there's not a ton of value on it. But yeah, that's kind of what we got so far. So let's take a look at the Vegas odds really quick, and then we'll go team by team here, and then we'll get to questions at the end. Yeah, I forgot my mic exactly. Just didn't have it plugged in. So cool, good to go. All right. Warriors, Pistons, a 227 over under. Warriors are 4.5 point favorites. With Raptors, we have 76ers at 218.5 over under. The 76ers are 1.5 point favorites. Boston and the Pacers are 219 over under. The Pacers are 1 point favorites. We have Bulls, we have Wizards at 238 over under. Wizards are 5.5 point favorites. I think this game looks pretty appealing if you want to get a couple pieces to it. Knicks, Cavs at 216 over under. The Cavs are 3.5 point favorites. Bucks and Heat's a 226.5 over under. The Bucks are 6 point favorites. Magic, Thunder, a 218.5 over under. The Magic are 6 point favorites. Nuggets and Kings is a 227.5 over under. The Nuggets are 2.5 point favorites. Timberwolves and Clippers, 226 over under. Clippers are 10.5 point favorites. We have Kawhi status still up in the air. Karl-Anthony Towns already ruled out. This game does have some blowout risk. And then Pelicans, Suns at 222 over under. The Suns are 2.5 point favorites. All right. So let's start with New York and Cleveland. On the New York side, I think there's one play that stands out, and he stands out a lot in my opinion, and that's Alfred Payton at 5.5K. And the only reason being is there's no healthy guards in this team. Alec Burks is out, Obi Toppin's out, Austin Rivers is out, Quickly's out, Dennis Smith Jr. is out. They literally have no guards. So Alfred Payton played 29 minutes out last game with Alec Burks playing. I think the minutes go up for him in a good spot, a guy that stuffs the stat sheet. He's one of my favorite plays in the mid-range. As far as Randall and Barrett go, they're fine plays. I would prefer Randall to Barrett. He's a guy that can stuff the stat sheet, but is he necessary at this price at 8.2? I probably prefer some other plays. Let's see. Mitchell Robinson, on a 10-game slate, I just don't want to deal with it. I mean, he is a good point-per-minute guy, but it's just, can he stay out of the foul trouble? He's actually been okay at that so far this season, but again, I'm just not going to risk it. I'd rather play Alfred Payton at a similar price. A couple interesting value plays with the slate not having a ton of value. I think you can look to a guy. I know it's kind of gross, like you want to throw up in your mouth, but Kevin Knox is at 4K. Should probably play about 30 minutes. Reggie Bullock probably gets more like 25 to 30 minutes. These are not very high usage guys, but there's not a lot of value on the slate. So I think you can look to these guys for sure. Let's move on to Cleveland. Cleveland, Andre Drummond, I think, is one of the better plays at the top at 8.7. I think he's going to be popular. Is he a must-play? No. We have Muscala for value. We have a couple other centers that I think are viable. But last couple games, 64 and 57 fantasy points. That 57 fantasy point game was in a blowout in only 26 minutes. Matchup's great here. He should be able to have his way. I assume we get 30 to 35 minutes from Drummond. The only reason I say that is because that first game, not really dealing with foul trouble, only played 27 minutes. So that was a little concerning. But Drummond I think is one of the better spend ups. I think he's definitely in play for cash games. Sexton at 6.9, I prefer some other plays. Larry Nance at 6.3, I definitely think is viable. I would not expect 52 fantasy points, but I think we get about 35 minutes. I think he's a guy that can stuff the stat sheet. If you want to get off a chalky Andre Drummond, you can look to a guy like Larry Nance, who if Drummond gets in some foul trouble or something like that, then Larry Nance stands to benefit big time. And again, Drummond, I think, will be pretty popular. So an interesting pivot here in tournaments is maybe you look to Larry Nance. Again, doesn't have as much upside as Drummond, but I think he's definitely in play there in the mid-range. And I got to talk about Darius Garland. He's been really, really consistent. 41, 53, 27 fantasy points in a blowout. He should play over 30 minutes. He's a guy that's winning a ton of assists, too. 6, 12, and 7 assists. He's been shooting the ball well, firmly in play. I don't know if he keeps this up, but yeah, it's hard to argue what he's been doing. Again, no Kevin Love. That's why Larry Nance is in play. Everyone else, I don't think I get to CD Osman. McGee, I will mention just because there's not a lot of value on the slate. He should play about 15 minutes. Again, a good point per minute guy. I think you can give him a look to him. And then, I've heard Dante Exum's name a decent amount here at 3.3K. Again, he's in play. How many minutes does he play is a little bit more in question. I would say around 20, maybe a little bit more. If he's going to be like somewhat popular, I'll just look elsewhere. He's definitely not a must on the slate. But that's it for the first game. So let's move on to Golden State and Detroit. So Golden State, I really do like Steph at the top at 9.6K. Love the matchup for him. In games that are competitive, he'll play about 35 minutes. He had 56 fantasy points in 36 minutes against the Bulls. I think he has similar upside here. Definitely one of the better spend-ups at the top. You guys know I do not play Andrew Wiggins. Cross him out. Wiseman, more of a GPP play, a little risky. Now, Kelly Oubre, mentioned him in the video. Interesting contrarian play as well. He shot the ball absolutely terrible. 3 of 14, 1 of 10, 3 of 16. He's not going to continue to shoot that bad. So I think Kelly Oubre is an interesting punt play. Should play about 30 minutes if the game stays close. And again, I don't think he continues to shoot like 10% from the field. Below that, I don't think I get to anyone else at Golden State. They're running too many guys off the bench. On the Detroit side, Blake Griffin at 6'9", definitely viable. I think he's a decent play in the mid-range. Should play, 30 to 35 minutes. Great matchup. Is he a must-play? No, but I think he's definitely viable here on the Pistons side. Jeremy Grant at 6'5". I would rather get to Blake at a similar price. D. Rose, more of a contrarian play, but a guy that can get it done in like high 20s minutes and a great matchup. Definitely wouldn't go there for cash games, though, just because the minutes. Plumlee's a viable cash game play at 5'7". You know what you're getting out of Mason Plumlee. 32 or so minutes. A guy that can stuff the stat sheet. Not a great offensive player, but he'll get you the rebounds, he'll get you the assists, can score the ball a little bit. Good matchup here. I think Plumlee is a viable, cheap play in the mid-range. DeLon Wright, Josh Jackson, those are two of my favorite value plays last slate. Now, do we go there in this slate? They take a hit for sure. They're still in play, but not as good of plays as they were yesterday. And that's really it for me on the Detroit side. Let's move on to Boston and the Pacers. This is a game I don't have a ton of interest. Two good defensive teams. Tatum, Brown, more secondary plays for me. I prefer other spend-ups. I'm not going to play Marcus Smart. The only guy, or two guys I'll mention, or three, I guess, because there's not a lot of value. Jeff Teague, again, he sunk everyone's lineup on Christmas. He should play 20 to 25 minutes. He's a higher usage guy off the bench, but he has shot the ball 0 of 11 the last two games. He's not going to continue to shoot that bad, right? The first game, 7 of 15, 36 fantasy points. So yeah, you can throw Teague in the mix. Robert Williams at 3.9. I put him in, or I'm mentioning him because he played 22 minutes the last game. Now, the minutes are a little bit more up in the air. They always are with a Brad Stevens offense for the front court. He just rotates the bigs. You never know what he's going to do. If he gets close to 20 minutes, I think he could smash this price point, but we don't know about that for sure. Again, he could play only 10 minutes, and then you don't want him. Peyton Pritchard at 3.5, 25 and 23 minutes. Again, a lower-owned value play you can give a look to because there's really not a ton on this slate. On the Pacers side, there's two guys and two guys only. It's Sabonis and Brogdon. You guys know Sabonis didn't play every single slate, playing enormous minutes, 41 the last game in regulation. Love him. He just fills up the stat sheet. He's so consistent. I think he's one of the better plays at this price range. I think Drummond will be more popular. If you want to pivot, you can look to Sabonis at a very similar price range. I think he comes in at lower ownership. Brogdon is always in play too just because a high floor of his assist. I expect mid-30s minutes as long as his game stays close. Firmly in play Brogdon and Sabonis. Everyone else are stayaways for me on the Pacer side. Let's move on to Toronto and Philly. Not a game I have a ton of interest in. Siakam, Lowry, VanVleet, all secondary plays for me. I think definitely one of those guys will have a good game if this game stays close. They will play big minutes, but trying to nail down which one's going to be a little bit more difficult. Not the best matchup, so I'm going to pass. Boucher's too expensive, even though I love playing him. Baines at 4.8 against Embiid. I'm a little bit worried about the foul trouble concerns. They said they're going to use Alex Len off the bench, but how many minutes will he get? I don't know. Again, that's to guard Embiid. So really not a ton of interest on Toronto. On the Philly side, same thing. With Embiid playing, just takes everyone else out of play for me. Embiid himself, I think, is an interesting contrarian spend up. Again, coming off the injury. They said he's not going to be limited. I assume 30 to 35 minutes. Again, great point per minute guy. So you can give a look to Embiid for tournaments. But other than that, I don't have interest in Philly. Chicago, Washington. So this is probably my favorite game to target. Zach LaVine, Kobe White. I do like them a good amount here in the mid-range, especially if Lauri Markkanen is out. If Lauri Markkanen is out, that's a high-usage guy out of this offense. more usage to Levine, more usage to Kobe White in a great matchup. This game should stay close. Washington, again, does not play a ton of defense. The highest over under the slate. So I like Levine a good amount. I like Kobe White a good amount. I think both go kind of lower owned on the slate. But they're two of my favorite plays at the guard position. I like Levine and I like Kobe White a lot. Wendell Carter Jr. at 6'1" finally had a good game. 44 fantasy points in 31 minutes against Golden State. He couldn't do that when I was high on him against Atlanta. Thanks, Wendell Carter Jr. No, but yeah, 6K, that feels about right. He can still have upside, but I'm going to look elsewhere in the slate. The wings, Otto Porter, Patrick Williams, Thad Young, potentially these guys should play a few more minutes if Lauri Markkanen is out. Again, it's Thad Young's first game, so I don't know if they're going to run him out there a ton. And last I mentioned is Santa Ransky at 3.5, just because, again, I've said this like 20 times already, but there's not a lot of value plays in the slate. He should play 20 to 25 minutes. He's a decent point per minute guy. I don't think he's going to be super high owned. So, yeah, I'm actually pretty high in the Bulls guards. That being Levine, that being Kobe White, and that being Tomas Satoransky. On the Washington side, well, cover boy Russell Westbrook is one of my favorite spend-ups of the slate. He's played 36 minutes in the games he's played. He's not shot the ball well. 6 of 19, 9 of 22. Still put up 60 fantasy points in both those games. A triple-double in each. With no James Harden, he's been a high-usage guy. Like, Beal's still a good player, but he's not James Harden. So Westbrook's going to have the ball in his hands more. Great matchup against Chicago. I really want to target players against this Bulls team. So Westbrook is one of my favorite spend-ups of the slate. Don't mind Beal if you want to get off I think, somewhat popular Westbrook. An interesting pivot, but I do prefer Westbrook because he's a guy that can stuff the stat sheet. Thomas Bryant, more of a contrarian play, but I do like the matchup for him. Price it's just a little high. If he was in like the 6K range or like low 6K range to high 5K range, I would like him a lot more. I love the matchup for him. I want to target bigs against Chicago, so I still think he's in play, but again, more of a contrarian GBP play. Other than that, when they're fully healthy, I don't have interest in the value for Washington. We know where the offense is coming from, right? So let's move on to Milwaukee and Miami. Real quick, though, guys, if you enjoy this content, I really appreciate it if you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit over 7,000 subscribers the other day. So, again, I want to thank you guys for continuing to come to these live streams, continuing to support, continuing to hit the like button. It helps me out more than you know. But let's move on to Milwaukee and Miami. Real quick, let me refresh, make sure there's no more news that we've missed. Nothing yet. Again, I'll keep an eye on chat. Yeah, again, I do like Russell Westbrook a great amount here. Yeah, he's getting his stats, exactly. All right, so Milwaukee, Miami. Giannis, so, Miami actually does a pretty good job defending him. Bam Adebayo, is a good defender, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, but this is a game that should stay competitive. So we should see about 35 or so minutes from Giannis. I think he's in play just because of the minutes. He's a great point per minute guy. The matchup, again, isn't necessarily the best, but we should get the minutes here from Giannis. I think definitely in play as a spend up. Probably not a priority for me, but definitely viable. Middleton has been on fire to start the season, playing huge minutes too. Again, he played 38 in that game that was competitive against Boston. I expect mid to high 30s minutes from him. Now, does he continue to play this well? Probably not, but I think he's still in play in the mid-range. Drew Holiday's fine too at 6'7". Again, should play probably mid-30s minutes. Price he's the cheapest of the big three, so he's, again, okay in the mid-range. Bobby Portis might be a little over-owned after, last couple games of 33 and 32 fantasy points. Be warned, right? Those are both blowout games, so he got extended. I expect if the game stays close, 15 to 20 minutes, so I'm going to pass on Bobby Portis. And below that, I don't really think we have to go with the value. On the Miami side, so Bam Adebayo definitely in play. I think might be a little bit over-owned, but he's a guy the usage does go up with no Jimmy Butler, so definitely a good play at the top. Did only play 28 minutes the last game against New Orleans, which was a little concerning. 35 in the first game. I expect, 35 minutes from him. Again, good point per minute guy. No Jimmy Butler. Definitely in play. For me, though, I would rather have Dragic. And, do you want to play two Miami guys? You can. But for me, I prefer the savings than a guy like Goran Dragic. Again, Jimmy Butler out, so Dragic's one of my favorite plays in the mid-range. Should play a few more minutes, probably with no Butler. I expect him to come off the bench. Definitely viable here. Again, when he is out on the court, he has the ball in his hands a ton. So I do like Dragic a lot there in the mid-range. Don't mind Hero too. Minutes might go up a little bit more. Now he at times can be more reliant in the scoring compared to Dragic, who has a higher floor with the assist. Both guys in play. You can play both if you want to. I do prefer Dragic to Hero though. Duncan Robinson at 5K, just a little pricey for a guy that's relying on the scoring. Now he is a good shooter, so you can go there in GBPs, but I like him when he's in the 4K range. Everyone else, like Bradley, I'm not going to get to. We don't know if Kelly Olynyk's going to be in the rotation. I think there's an outside chance they might start Kendrick Nunn. If they do, he would be potential value play, who I would think would probably play at least 20 minutes. Guys like Myers Leonard, Preston Achua, with there being very little value. Myers Leonard played 20 minutes that last game. Precious Achiuwa played, 19? I expect, 15 or so minutes from these guys. They're okay punt plays, but I think you can do better on the slate. So let's move on to Orlando and OKC. Orlando's a team that not a ton of interest for me. Like Vucevic, I love the matchup. He should be able to feast against Mike Muscala and whoever else they have out there for the Oklahoma City side. So the only issue I have is the minutes. 31 in a close game, 28 in a close game. That's not good. Like he was a guy who was playing over 35 minutes a game last season. If he's going to play 30 minutes a game, that just takes a hit because minutes are everything. If he's going to lose 5 minutes a game, that's not good. And it's not like he was in foul trouble, right? So little concerning there with the minutes for Vucevic. I think he does come in at lower ownership. Again, I do like the matchup for him. The only concern is, minutes recently for him. Gordon, they've been limiting his run, so I'm not going to go there. Fultz at 6-1's fine, but I probably prefer other plays at this price range. You guys know I never play Evan Fournier too. He's on that list of guys that just don't play. Terrence Ross has been on fire shooting. People will probably chase. I would pump the brakes a bit. He is so reliant on scoring. He's been shooting well. If his shot's not falling, he will not get you there. So, yes, he's been making his shots. He had 26 real-life points, 30 fantasy points. 25 real-life points, 33 fantasy points. Look at this box score, right? 1 assist, or 1 rebound, 0 assist. 2 rebounds, 1 assist. If he is not hitting his shots, he has a floor of about 10 fantasy points. I'll let others chase. He's not going to continue to shoot that well. I think it's a play that people will chase, and I'm going to avoid. On the Oklahoma City side, so no Al Horford. Opens up value. Mike Muscala is going to be one of the most popular value plays on the slate, in my opinion. SGA does get a slight boost, but not necessarily a must for me. I think I'd prefer other plays at the price range. George Hill, we're still waiting on that news. I don't think we've got it yet. That will change some things if he's out, like slight boost to everyone else in the starting lineup. I would assume Hamidou Diallo would start. He would become a pretty solid value play. So got to monitor that news. Like Bazley at 5'8", I'm a big fan of Bazley. In this match against Orlando, though, it's just fine. Again, he gets a slight boost to no Horford, but not super excited about it. And Dort, I've seen his name mentioned a lot here. He's at 28 and 35 fantasy points, but a little concerned here. He's been shooting the ball lights out. 9 of 11 last game. 26 real-life points. So just be warned with Lou Dort, too. Like, he does have a somewhat low floor if he is not hitting his shots. Minutes should be there for him, though. So I'm not saying he's a terrible play, but he has been shooting the ball really well to start the season. And Hamidou Diallo, again, if George Hill's out, I think he does make for a pretty solid value play, assuming he starts. I would think we get mid to high 20s minutes from him. And 2 other plays to mention. Mike Muscala, again, going to be the chalk in the slate. I think if he does start, obviously he's a safe play. Should play 20 to 25 minutes, maybe a little bit more. There's not a lot of value, so a lot of people are going to gravitate towards him. Alexi, again, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he should be the backup 5. I think he's an interesting pivot off Muscala chalk if you want to get different. I would assume he backs up Muscala and plays about 20 minutes, maybe a little bit more if there's some foul trouble. So you can give a look to him. Again, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name at the moment. I should learn how to pronounce it, but at the moment I'm just going to pass on that. The pronunciation, that is. So let's move on to Minnesota and Clippers. One more time, guys, I'll ask to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll stay on for another 20 or so minutes to get to questions, so don't worry, I will get to questions at the end. Let's try to aim for we're at 94 likes. Let's try to aim for 125 likes if we can. Would greatly appreciate that. But all right, 3 games left. Minnesota, no Karl-Anthony Towns, so this game has some blowout risk. It does. 10.5 point favorites. The Clippers are. Minnesota's not a great team. So if they're going to stay in this game, you kind of know how it's going to happen, right? D'Angelo Russell. Now, he had an absolutely terrible game there against the Lakers. Shot 2 of 7, 9 fantasy points. I kind of like that because that's going to lower the ownership even more on him. And if you're a guy that's going to target someone on the Clippers side, I think it makes sense to run it back with either D'Lo or Beasley because these are the 2 guys that are going to run the offense. D'Lo has not been shooting the ball great, but this is a guy that can get hot. He has upside of 50-plus fantasy points. And with no Karl-Anthony Towns, he should have to do a lot more. So I do like D'Angelo Russell as a contrarian play. Definitely not a cash play, but like him in GPPs. Also, I do like Malik Beasley a good amount of 5'9" in GPPs. He will have to do a lot more. Again, he's been kind of their number 3 offensively. He's going to have to be their number 2 in this game. He's a higher usage guy. And him, D'Lo, are going to have to, if they're going to stay in this game, it's got to be because of those 2 guys. Rubio would just rather get to Beasley at similar price. People have asked me about Anthony Edwards. I think he's a fine play. Personally, I would rather get to Beasley. I think the upside is a little higher in Beasley compared to Anthony Edwards. Naz Reid, too, at 5'1". Firmly in play, no Karl-Anthony Towns. My worry here is he's a Mitchell Robinson-esque. So this guy is always in foul trouble. You saw in the Lakers game, he got in foul trouble too. but came back in kind of in garbage time. So just be warned here. I think Naz Reid is going to be somewhat popular. I think he is a good play if he can stay out of foul trouble. So it does worry me. Price is up. It's no longer like he's a great value play, right? It's no longer like he's like below 4K. He's 5-1. So he's got to stay out of foul trouble to get us there. If he gets in some foul trouble, right? So a little bit of risk there, but as long as everything goes right, I think we get, mid to high 20s minutes for Naz Reid, and he's a great point per minute guy. So I think he is one of the better value plays guys in this price range, but there's risk involved with him. Culver with Noah Koji, I think should play a little bit more. Again, okay option for value with there not being a ton on the slate. As far as like who else is going to start, so they said Jake Layman's not going to start. Maybe they start like Juancho Hernan-Gomez. If they do, he'd be potential value. Last guy I mentioned is Ed Davis because I think Naz Reid is going to be popular. One way to get off of Naz Reid chalk is Ed Davis, right? Because Ed Davis is the backup. He's actually a decent point per minute guy. And if Naz Reid gets in some foul trouble, Ed Davis will have to play some good minutes. So I think he's an interesting GPP play. But that's it for Minnesota. On the Clippers side, so got to monitor Kawhi Leonard's status. He's questionable with the mouth injury. I assume he's good to go. I assume he is. So with him playing, it's a great matchup for these guys, but I don't know if one really stands out more than the other. I probably would prefer Kawhi to Paul George when they're, about $1,000 difference. The, Ibaka versus Zubac, again, it's a great spot for them, but they're just splitting the minutes. Don't think we have to go there. Lou Williams going to play mid-20s minutes on the bench. I think he's an interesting GPP play. Batum is viable at 4-5 just because the price and the fact that he's starting with no Marcus Morris. Should play like high 20s to low 30s in minutes. He's not a very high usage guy, but he can go out there and and fill up a stat sheet and get a decent fantasy point outing. Again, I think he is kind of washed, but he's definitely in play for value. And that's really it for the Clippers side. So 2 games left, New Orleans and Phoenix. New Orleans, Ingram, Zion, I think look pretty good here in this range, 8-2 and 8-1 respectively. I think the upside is a little bit higher on Ingram. The floor is a little bit higher on Zion, but both firmly in play in a good matchup. Lonzo and Bledsoe, they kind of take turns having good games. Both will play about 30 minutes or so. Both can fill up the stat sheet. Bledsoe's been, chalk last couple games. He's busted. Lonzo had a good game last game. I think Lonzo will probably be a little bit higher owned. It is a revenge game for Bledsoe if you're into that, but they're more secondary plays in my opinion. Steven Adams, like the perfect cash game play, 25 to 35 fantasy points. You know what you're getting out of him. I think Josh Hart and JJ are viable value plays. Josh Hart, because of the minutes, right? He's playing about 30 minutes a game. He's been rebounding the ball decent, a good matchup. And JJ Redick, more of a GPP play because so reliant on the scoring. He has not shot well recently. 1 of 7, 1 of 8. He's not going to continue to shoot that bad. Again, 12 and 5 fantasy points. So the floor is really, really low. If his shot is falling this first game, he has upside to get like 30 or so. So yeah, JJ in play for value, but the floor is low. All right, Phoenix. So Booker, secondary play that price, still a little bit pricey. Ayton and Chris Paul are decent plays in this range. I think they'll both go a little bit overlooked. Ayton's a guy that's had some foul trouble, and there's been blowouts. I expect, 35 minutes from him if this game does stay competitive. The individual matchup isn't necessarily the best, but I think Ayton's an interesting contrarian play. Chris Paul at 7-1, I think is a safer play. Should play about 30 minutes, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. I prefer the price on him to Booker. Obviously, Booker has more upside, but I think Chris Paul is an okay play there in the mid-range. Bridges, Crowder, Cam Johnson with Sarge coming back, makes them all a little riskier. I guess my favorite of the bunch would be Cam just because he's the cheapest. Expect, 20 to 25 minutes from him. He's an okay value play, but not a must. And that's it for Phoenix. So Denver, Sacramento, last game here. Jokic in play at the top. He's been absolutely smashing so far this season. 74, 51, 72 fantasy points in a great matchup. Like Holmes, Whiteside, Bagley, they cannot stick with Nikola Jokic. So I like him a good amount there at the top. Jamal Murray at 7K, got banged up a bit. Did come back, though. I think at that price, he's fine, but not really a priority for me. The other options, MPJ, Barton, Millsap, Gary Harris. Just secondary plays. No one I'm really excited about. So it's Jokic for me, and that's about it. On the Sacramento side, Fox at 7-6. Again, contrarian play because of the matchup. Should play mid-30s minutes if this game stays close. Buddy Hield, too reliant on the scoring for me. I'd rather have Fox. Bagley at 5-4. I know some people have mentioned him. Should play mid-20s minutes. I think he's an okay play, not like a great play, not the best matchup. I don't play Harrison Barnes ever either. Another one of those guys I just never play. And yeah, below that, like Whiteside's minutes have gone down, so he only played 10 minutes the last game. That's concerning. If he was playing like 15 to 20, he would become a lot more viable on the slate. But after seeing 10 minutes, that is a little bit concerning. So that's it, guys. That's all I got. Let me take a quick sip of water, and then we can get to some questions. Again, sorry about the blurriness in the background here a bit. I tried messing with that for like 10, 15 minutes. I couldn't get it to work. Okay. Sneaky value of the night, Ntilikina. I mean, he probably will be in the rotation, Frank Ntilikina, but man, I don't know if I can do that. That might be too much for me. Yeah, we'll probably play 20-ish minutes, maybe a little more. And you can do it, but I don't think I'm going to go there. Whiteside sucks. Yeah, he sucks as a basketball player. He's a good fantasy player though. Dragic and Anunoby, yeah, definitely Dragic there for me. Carter Jr. or Adams tonight, DK. Adams is definitely safer, so I think I would go Adams. If you're going for the upside, I would say Wendell Carter Jr. probably has a little bit more upside, but the variance on him is pretty high. I need love for the 70. Not a ton for 76ers Raptors. The Raptors guys, the reason being is they seem priced about right. Minutes will be there. Not really the best matchup. It's hard to kind of nail down which one's going to be. Are you stacking Westbrook, Levine, White? I mean, I like doing that. I am playing Russell Westbrook, and I do like those Bulls guards. I'm still kind of finalizing my lineup. I think I'm going to go a little bit more contrarian today, with there not being a ton of value on the slate. That's usually best small forward in cash. I will answer that. Small forward in cash. Yeah, small forward is kind of gross. So I think for if you want to spend down at small forward, I think you can look to a guy Josh Hart or a guy like Nick Batum. Those are probably, cashier plays. If you're looking to spend up, I think Ingram is probably my favorite play of this bunch at the top. I think he has the most upside. But yeah, it's small forward is kind of ugly. So probably those guys I would consider. Vucevic or Drummond? So Drummond's going to be a lot more popular. I would say maybe Drummond for cash, but I kind of like Vooch and GPPs just because not a lot of people are talking about him. I think the ownership drops. Obviously, minutes last game was a little bit concerning, but I love the matchup for Vooch against Muscala and whoever else they have out there. D'Lo, Drummond, or Nance Westbrook? I would say the second one for cash games. The first one I like for GPPs. And again, D'Lo is like the great GPP play because the range of outcomes for him is so high. He can go out, if the game blows out, he can go out and get 15 fantasy points. If the game stays close, you could see like a 40 to 50 bomb from D'Lo. Toscano, Anderson, good play. Not enough minutes for me. Maldian, playable. Possibly if George Hill's out, I would probably prefer get into Diallo. Well, I guess assuming who would start. Dragic or Payton, no, that's a tough one. They're two of my favorite plays in that range. I'm going to go Alfred Payton because I think Dragic will be a little bit higher owned, but I do like those guys a good amount. And the reason I'm pretty high in Alfred Payton is the minutes. Now, I guarantee you some way Tom Thibodeau is going to find a way to not give Alfred Payton the minutes to really screw me over and play Alfred Payton like 25 minutes. But again, with them being so shorthanded, he should play over 30 minutes. He should. Dort's a viable value play. Exactly, yeah. Vooch, again, I like him as a contrarian center. I wouldn't play Toscano Anderson. Payton or Garland? I actually prefer Payton. It's close, but I would rather have Alfred Payton. Cole Anthony thoughts? Probably don't have to do it. Blake Griffin, a good cash play? Yeah, I think he is. Below 7K, great matchup. I think he's fine. Adebayo or Vooch? I'll go Vooch, just because I think he'll be lower on. Is Markkanen playing? I don't think we have that confirmation yet on whether or not he is playing. Let's see. Yeah, we have nothing yet on that. Anthony Edwards for cash, you can do it. I mean, I guess the reason he is kind of blowout proof. He will play if the game blows out or not. So, yeah, I guess that does kind of make some sense for cash games, right? Because no matter what the outcome of the game, Anthony Edwards will play. Dean Wade worth a dart throw? I wouldn't do it. Ball or Holiday? I would say, I'll go Drew. Any thoughts on Garland? I think he's definitely in play. He's been playing fantastic so far. Should play over 30 minutes. No issue at all with him. Bam and Griffin or Warren and Drummond? I'll go Bam and Griffin. George Hill active. Did that just come out? I don't see that yet. I think he's still questionable. Let's get it, man. Thibodeau overplays his starters. Yeah. normally, but Alfred Payton has been, I mean, the minutes have just not been great for him if you look at his box scores. And even the preseason, right? He played like one game of over 30 minutes, and then other than that, he was like playing like 20-ish minutes. So who to pay up for other than Westbrook? It depends. There's a lot of solid play. Is Reed a must play? No, not at all. Wendell Carter or Thomas Bryant? I think I'd rather have Thomas Bryant. Are we playing Sabonis tonight? I think he's firmly in play. He's a safe play. Matchup not really the best, so he's definitely not a must, but I think he's a safe option. Curry or Westbrook, and that's close. That is really close. Both have similar upside. It's basic coin flip. I'll go Westbrook just because he's the cover boy, but I do like both a lot. Garland versus Dragic. I'll prefer Dragic there. Lou Williams, a contrarian GPP play, like his upside. Let's see. What about Bazley? I think Bazley's fine. I probably prefer the value, though, for OKC. Sandaransky, definitely in play with there being lack of value. Rubio, I'll pass. Would rather have D'Lo or Malik Beasley. Porter, if Markkanen sits, possibly. If Porter starts, I would like him a lot more. If Otto Porter starts for Lauri Markkanen, I think he is one of the better plays at that price. Reed or Muscala? So I would say both are going to be pretty popular for cash games. I think the safer option is Muscala, and the reason being is he's $2,000 cheaper. Plus, again, Naz Reid is a guy that's always in foul trouble. So, core, I don't give on these live streams, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Sabonis or Drummond? So Drummond's gonna be a lot more popular. I think Drummond for cash, but kind of like the pivot of Sabonis and GPPs. Justin Holiday for cheaper. Right? It's just one of those. He's 3'9". Everyone's healthy. Probably plays 20 to 25 minutes. You can go there, but don't like the matchup. I'm not super excited about it. Otto Porter if no Markkanen or Naz Reid. So dependent on the starting lineup. If Otto Porter starts for Lauri Markkanen, then I would say Otto Porter. But at the moment, they're just not playing Otto Porter a ton, even in close games. Garland or Payton. I'm going to go Alfred Payton, though. White or Hero. Kobe White for me. Danny Green, cash. I wouldn't do it in cash. Beasley, Naz Reid. Let's see. Sorry, guys. It's going fast. Beasley, Naz Reid, or Kobe White and Lou Dort. Depends. I mean, I think the second option is safer for sure with Kobe White and Lou Dort. Both those games obviously should stay close. Beasley and Naz Reid. If the game gets out of hand, I don't think Beasley plays at all. Naz Reid might come back in, so second one is definitely safer. Dragic here, again, I think it's Dragic for me. Muscala and Reid similar price on FanDuel. Well, if they're similar price on FanDuel, I mean, I think Reid has more upside. But there's still some risk involved there. Best forward under 5K. Let's see. Forward under 5K. It's not a range I really like. I would say probably Josh Hart or Lou Dort. I think I'll go Hart. I think Dort will be somewhat popular today. I'll take Josh Hart. He'll play, about 30 minutes off the bench. Yeah, not overly excited about it. I'm not I don't love the play, but yeah, that's what I'd say. Stars and scrubs are balanced, so I would say there's not a ton of value. So usually when there's not a lot of value, I try to go a little bit more balanced, just because, again, besides like a guy like Mike Muscala, there's nothing you're going to feel really comfortable with, in my opinion. Favorite small forward in the mid-range? I don't like this range. I don't like this range for small forward. I think for me, I'll take the shot on Malik Beasley and hope Minnesota keeps his game close. If you're shooting for the upside, again, I do like Beasley, but there's a ton of risk. I guess safer option, again, would be Anthony Edwards, then Beasley, just because I think he's blowout proof. He'll play in the blowout. I do prefer Beasley's upside, but yeah, that's not a range in small forward I want to stay in, or I want a lot. Sandaransky, yes. Sandaransky is playable for value. I think 20 to 25 minutes. Batum valuable, yes. No Marcus Morris, should play high 20s minutes. Toscano Anderson, I feel like he didn't play a ton that last game for Golden State. Let me see. They just use so many guys, besides the main guys, besides Steph and Oubre, Wiggins, everyone kind of just rotates. No one plays a ton of minutes. What did he play? He played 19 minutes. Yeah, so I'm not going to play Toscano Anderson at 19 minutes. Sabonis or Ingram? George Hill's out. Okay, so I think the upside, I like the matchup a little better for Ingram, so I will go Ingram. Sabonis is a little bit safer. So Dort with Hill out. Yeah, I think Dort's role, I mean, probably gets a slight usage bump, but I think whoever gets inserted in the starting lineup, I would assume it's Hamidou Diallo becomes one of the better, I think, value plays. We'll see what they do with the starting lineup. Yeah, so again, I think Hamidou Diallo probably starts and becomes a pretty solid value play. Dort gets a slight boost. SGA gets a slight boost. Baisley gets a slight boost. Peyton and Oubre or Dragic and Anunoby. Give me the first one. I don't think Kelly Oubre continues to shoot that bad. Yeah, I think Diallo will play more minutes. I agree. Hey, proposal narrative. Josh Hart. Yeah, Diallo can open up value with Hill out. Yeah, I think Diallo definitely valuable. Do you like Shea tonight? Little pricey for me with that matchup. Cameron Johnson in play for value, not my favorite. I'm sorry I'm late. Thoughts on Magic versus OKC. So I think Vucevic is a nice pivot off of some chalky guys like Drummond in that range. Love the matchup for Vooch. The minutes have been somewhat disappointing. And then OKC side, Mike Muscala is going to be the chalk and cash. I think you probably go there in cash games. But there is some other value now. George Hill out. With Diallo, assuming he starts, everyone else in the starting lineup gets a slight boost. Steven Adams or Wendell Carter Jr. So I think for safety, it's Adams. For the upside, it's Wendell Carter. A lot of narratives, yeah. Theodore Melton popping a lot of optos. If he does get, he is potential value too. He might start, maybe. Let's go to OKC. Theo Maldian, or I should know how to pronounce his name. But yeah, 20 minutes, possibly, might play some more. Maybe he starts, maybe value, right? Diallo or Reed. So Reed for the upside. I like Ed Davis as a pivot. Naz Reed is going to be pretty popular today, and Naz Reed is always in foul trouble. So if you want to differentiate yourself from the field, you can take a shot at Ed Davis, who if Naz Reed gets some foul trouble, would assume Ed Davis comes in and plays decent minutes. Dragic, Peyton, Wright, Dort, Ingram, Jackson, Zion, Randall, Drummond, and Vandal. I think that's fine. Rumor has it none won't play. Okay. Andre Iguodala. I don't know if that's necessary. I think it'll kind of be Iguodala, Avery Bradley, Mo Harkless. I don't really have the interest in the value for Miami. If none would start, I would have interest in him, but those guys are low usage guys. SGA will burn you. I'll play Levine. Yeah, I'm with you, Marcus. I am pretty high on Zach Levine today. I prefer him definitely to SGA. Like Randall, he's fine at his price. Would rather have Alfred Payton. Kobe White or Levine? Levine has more upside. So if you can get to Levine. Larry Nance or Baisley for GPP. I'll go Nance. Taking price into consideration, White or Levine. We'll take a price into consideration. That's still close. I think I still go the edge of Levine. I just like his upside a bit more. Russ, Dort, Ingram, Reed, Muscala, Peyton, Middleton, Dragic for cash. I think that's fine. Josh Jackson, Diallo, or Batum. We're still waiting on the OKC starting lineup. So depends. I think all three are definitely in play for value. If Diallo starts, I think he looks like a pretty decent value play. Not a super high usage guy. So I would say like Diallo and Batum more cashy plays. Josh Jackson I still have interest in for GPPs. Ownership will drop. Muscala or Exum for value. I would go Muscala. Dort or Batum. Dort should play more minutes, but he's also been shooting the ball really well. I think for upside you go Dort, just because when he's shooting well, he probably has a little more upside. RJ or Sexton. RJ Barrett or Sexton. I'm not overly excited about either. I'll go RJ just because the Knicks are really shorthanded. So bonus or Ingram. So I like the matchup better for Ingram. 2 more Mets, guys. Then I got to get out of here. Thoughts on plays like Embiid and Jokic. I prefer Jokic to the top 2 Embiid. Embiid is not someone I'm super interested in. Don't sleep on Jamal Murray. He is a little cheap. He hasn't really got it going yet, but does have upside. And Jokic is not going to continue to shoot or continue to kill. Giannis Contrarian, I think he'll be lower owned. Yeah, with there being lack of value, yeah. Diallo should get 25 plus minutes. If he starts, I would say at least 25, yeah. DK point per dollar, who's your favorite GPP play tonight? It depends. I think I like those Chicago guards for GPPs. I like, those Minnesota guys we went over. If they're going to stay in it, Beasley, D'Lo, I think they come in at lower ownership. Wiseman or Bryant, I would have Thomas Bryant. Favorite forward play? Let's see. I don't know. It's tough because there's obviously I'm just looking at all these forwards. At the top, Giannis, mid-range, Ingram, cheaper range or mid-range, Larry Nance. Beasley has some upside. So, yeah, tough question to answer. But, Naz Reid's going to be popular, and then you can scroll down. There's not a ton of value. So, it looks like 4 or 5 guys there. Ingram or Zion. So, for safety, I think Zion has slightly higher floor. Ingram with more upside. Good luck. Yep, Laurie out. I don't think we have that news yet. Is Dort better without George Hill? He should get a slight boost. Lou Dort season. Yeah, Dort's definitely viable. Not a must play. Dort might be a little overowned, but definitely in play. Is it okay to fade everyone for Bulls Wizards? You don't have to play them. That's my favorite game to target. I have 2 players in that game, so again, you don't necessarily have to, but that game I think has a lot of upside. That being Washington and Chicago. Two teams that play fast and not a lot of defense. I love CP3. Yeah, I think CP3 is. He's an interesting play at 7-1. I think goes a little bit overlooked. Should play about 30 minutes in a good matchup. So, yeah, I think CP3 definitely viable. All right, guys. One more question. Garland or Payton? Okay, they answer that, Payton. I'll do one more, and then I got to get out of here. So, last question here, and then I am signing off for the night. Kenrich Williams, I don't think we have to do it. I think that's a little much. I would look elsewhere for value. But, all right, guys, we hit almost 600 viewers. We hit 150 likes. I want to thank you guys again for coming into the live stream and continuing to support. It is greatly appreciated. As always, again, YouTube video, that'll be up later tonight. Be on the lookout for that. But, NBA, stay on top of things. Monitor news. We're still waiting on a couple pieces of news. So, good luck. I hope you guys have a great night, and I will see you all tomorrow. Oh, Alex with the $5 super chat. Real quick. Got to stay on first. As promised, man. Thank you so much. Westbrook, Diallo, Ingram, Sabonis, Muscala, Payton, Reed, Dragic, okay for cash. Yes, I like that for cash games. Where would you pivot for single entry? So maybe pivot off of, maybe get different in the value. Like maybe get off a chalky Muscala or a chalky Naz Reid. Maybe get off one of those guys. I like your spend ups. I don't necessarily think you have to change it, but maybe go a lower owned value play. So I think that's what I would do for single entry. Like one or two things get different there. But other than that, again, I think that's good for cash. And yeah. All right, guys, I'm gonna get out here. Thanks again. Thanks, Alex. I appreciate it, and I will see you guys all tomorrow.